Hi. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Hannah from Reality Awareness. If you don't know me, welcome to my program. No, this is my Facebook, my YouTube, wherever you're watching this, my Instagram. So welcome. I feel like I'm like, I've got nothing to talk about and I don't know what to talk about. And then I know once I get talking, it'll just flow out, because I did a support call with my Transcendence Reality Society membership the other day, and like all this stuff came out about the energies and the portals that have been going on lately. So I just wanted to jump on and talk to you guys about that, because it's been pretty huge for a lot of people that I know. So I really wanted to talk about that. So let me just share this live stream as always, and we shall jump in and get started. And if you want to share anything that's been going on for you, let me know, because there's a lot. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of things, and I'm excited to talk about what I wanted to talk about as well today. So let me know when you're here. Say hi. Just sharing this and shall be present with you. So all these bugs flying around in my face. Go away. Go away. All right, one more share. Hello people. You were hoping to hear from me. I know it took me a little bit to get organized, but I realized I'm like, it's so cold. I know it's not cold compared to some places in the world, but it's just so much colder in the hinterland compared to in town, and I struggle with the cold. That's all. So it took me a little bit to arrive here on live stream today. Okay, so hi Mel, Jenna, Damien, Destiny, hello, Jenny, Garrett, Tracy, Jenny, Kelly, hi. Where am I located? Not in a cold place. Sunshine Coast, Australia, Queensland, Australia. Yeah, not cold. It's cold in Cairns too. Yeah, okay, good. Because it's like, I'm cold. And the thing is it just doesn't seem to hit up, you know, but I know like on Thursday when I was in town, I went to, for a walk on the beach, and then I got stuck in town that day. You know, I wasn't cold, and I remembered how like I used to be in town, and it's like that. It's not really cold. So yeah, like I don't want to go in my office, it's so cold, and like I can turn the heater on and warm like a couple of rooms of the house up, but it's not like a fire heater, and it's a different warmth, and it's like you have to have it going like all day for it to even just stay warm, and it's not, yeah, anyway, I'm just whinging, whatever's. Enough whinging, because I got some really huge shifts to talk about, and this is really what I wanted to talk about. So like the solstice, the squeezing energies, like solstice was last week, by the way, and I was still like squeezing through the portal and really like going through the biggest transformation of my entire freaking life. And so I really want to talk about the shifts that I've had and what they mean for me, and where that's taking me in my life. And maybe in my sharing that will help you to like integrate and understand the energies and like land in reality, because I feel like we've gone through a portal and now we're living like a completely different life, is kind of in a nutshell what we're talking about today. So solstice, the squeezing energies, the Avalon and the Ancient Portals. The last 6 months has been massive life changes, long-term relationships ending, big movement in life for people, for either like internally or physically moving, or some like big realizations that are like totally life-changing. There's like a lot of end of cycles going on for people, hence then a lot of new cycles. And what comes with all the cycles and changes is grief. yeah, is grief. And a lot of like, there's a lot of, I want to say there's a lot of high energy as well, but it's like really, you know, like if you're going through one of the biggest birthing portals, if you may, and transformations of your life, it's going to feel like, I would say it's going to feel like death because you're going through a rebirth. Like, you know, and this is the thing when you talk about, you know, like, people feeling like death, it's like, yeah, because literally, you know, there is a part of you dying, which is like, there's literally a part of you dying. Like, that's why it feels like you're dying, you know, and that's why when people don't understand suicide, you know, or depression or any of that, it's literally that a part of you is dying, like an old part of your life is dying, and what it is, it's a part of your consciousness that's dying. Yeah, it's like a snake shedding its skin. Like, it's literally an old part of you that's dying. Yeah. So I'll just bring up my comments here. For some reason, something just happened. Internet seems to be going extra slow today. Maybe because it's Sunday. No, I'm joking. But it could be because everyone's home then. Hey, puppy, what have you got? Malia, what are you eating? Come here. She's finding all sorts of things in the garden and I'm just checking what she's eating. Malia, come. Come. You're a good girl. You're a good girl. My shepherd's come. Okay. I think she's just got a stick or something. All right, it looks like a stick. All right, I'm going to trust it's a stick. Okay, yeah, lots of grief, right? Lots of grief. Not easy, definitely. So, all right, so, like, and it's funny because last week I kind of forgot it was Solstice. And I think that I've just been going through one of the biggest transformations of my life. Like, and what a lot of, I want to say memories and portals coming up for me. So I talk about Avalon and the ancient portals. It could be like, it's like, you know, like those realms are very present around this time of year for some reason, especially Avalon. Like, it's very in the ethers, in the energy, etc. But also like 2005 has really been coming up for me in a big way at the moment. 2005, yeah, so the year 2005, yeah. So a lot, you know, like a lot of aspects of the old has been releasing because a new aspect is landing, which I know is like a no-brainer, makes total sense. No chewing cords. Hey, come here. No, don't touch that. Sorry, puppy's learning the ropes. So, oh, that's so interesting, Kelly. So, twice I heard about the grief and the snake, shedding of the skin, rebirth, painful transition, the solstice. So, what's happening with me? Yeah, exactly, right? So, snake. So snake's about like the rebirth. Well, actually, snake in truth is realizing the truth. Yeah. Yeah, 2005. Yeah. So it's when you began your journey, Sophia. I love it. So it's like looking at, like, I just feel like there's a lot of, okay, how am I trying to say this? Okay. So what I just got reminded of that I forgot that I was reminded of earlier in the week, it seems like we're going around in circles, but we're actually going up the spiral. You guys have probably heard that many, many times, right? And as we go up the spiral, everything seems to come up again, but it's like another layer that we're releasing because we're leaving it behind. So if like this thing happened on the spiral way down here, and we're like going up a spiral a couple of times, right? And the other thing to like check in with is like, look at what happened at this time of year, last year, year before, 20 years ago. Like, because in the timelines, there is it's a good check-in point to go, okay, what was going on for me in June last year, year before, okay, all the way back in 2005, yeah, this is when the big stuff was going on in June. Like, you know, and it's like, oh, well, when we look at the energies that are going on now with solstice and these There has been like a big planetary lineup as well. That's the other thing I wanted to check. Have you guys seen that? There was some big planetary lineup like earlier this week as well on Solstice, and I'm pretty sure there is one like almost every year at this time. There's always something going on in, you know, as well. Let me see if I can find it here. And so planets align in the morning sky. Also on the 23rd of June, this was 23rd, 24th, 25th, so only just happening. So a rare display will be visible above the northeastern horizon. I'm not sure if this is from the other side of the world or not. But it's not a conjunction with one constellation, but an alignment of the planets in their actual orbital order around the sun. This massing of observable planets is rare because the sun needs to be close enough to the horizon to illuminate them without overwhelming the sky with light. So, you know, like Mercury, Venus, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, like they're all in a line, right? Like all our planets in the solar system. So there's always something going on in the planetary lineup. And then when we like combine that with, you know, like, what is it? Solstice or eclipses or like just, it's so good to just check in. Yeah. So, you know, like, oh, you can see them from there in Canada. Yeah. So there's always something going on, and it's important to just, you know, when you are going through something huge, to just check, okay, what was going on for me this time last year? If there was not really much, it's like the year before, like just scan back through your life, right? You might not remember, but it's just good to check in. And you might remember a year. For example, for me, I'm like, wow, this is all the stuff that was going on in 2005. And then if I look deeper and go, oh, and then what was happening like in June 2005, I'm like, wow, that's when I had my spiritual awakening, right? But it's interesting, but what's been releasing from my field. And so when I look at like this point in the timeline, and then it's kind of like, you know, I might be up here in the spiral, but it's still in June in the spiral. So it's like in alignment with all the things that happen in June, right? So again, it's good to just check in, okay? Because you're not going crazy. It's like, oh, this makes sense, right? A big recalibration into who you are. So, you saw that, yes. Jenny said, I saw it by accident. I took my dog outside before the sun was rising. I was clear and bright line on the planets. Yeah, it's amazing, right? So I love that. Okay, and what else did I want to talk about? So, all right. So in myself, like I feel like I've not been very active or present online. I have been, but I've not been, right? Not how I used to. And probably in the past 18 months, I've been going through one of the biggest transitions of my life in my business, probably 2 years, I guess, alongside adjusting to being out here in the country. And then also, you know, with the dog attack and everything that happened, like it's been one of the massivest realizations and recalibrations of my life. I know massivist isn't really a word, but I just made it a word. So if you don't like me making words, well, then you just know where to go, okay? So you just don't watch my channel if you don't like me making words. Let's just be real about that, because you know who continues to watch something they do not like, okay? Doesn't make a logical sense, like really. So I feel like I haven't been very present, and I've been feeling guilty about that. At the same time, I've been going through like, again, one of the hugest shifts in my life, like, and I think, and also my business definitely as well. You make words up all the time. Yeah, right? It's like, it's a thing. I'm like, if you don't do that, like, how do you not do that? Like, it's just normal. So, it's just normal. You're one of us, that's why. That's why you're here. Okay. And, all right, so what am I, like, really wanting to share? Okay, so I think because my last couple of live streams, I was, like, breaking down. And, you know, and I do these live streams, and I'm like, oh, my God, what did I do that for? To be honest, I used to be that open and talk about all that stuff and be that vulnerable online like all the freaking time. And I stopped doing that along the way because of, I don't know, like lots of things built up, I guess. But that's like who I am, and that's what I do. And I share my life and my intuition. Like it's like, that's how I teach or something. And it's a pretty, I guess, a vulnerable thing to do in a way. It's a big deal, but it's also not a big deal. And I think that I've just come back into a sense of like, you know, in the biggest recalibration that I've been going through in the past 2 years of like, then also finding my feet with like, how do I, one of the biggest things that came through was like when I first moved into this place, and it was like, I sort of like, I don't know, I woke up or I had this thing and I was like, I don't want to fucking talk about the trauma anymore. I don't want to talk about the trauma anymore. I don't want to talk about the domestic violence anymore. I don't want to talk about the shit anymore. Like, I was just like, and then I like look at like a lot of my business content, like that's pure gold, right? And it's all about how to step away from unhealthy, toxic relationships, boundaries, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so who am I if I am not my trauma? Who am I if I don't talk about my trauma anymore? Who am I if I don't, like, how do I run, what do I talk about in my business if I don't do that anymore? And the reality is, it's so funny in a way, because I'm like, I came online to build a specific sort of creative project. Like, I came online because there was something I was specifically bringing to the world. And I want to say I got sidetracked along the way. I did and I didn't. I know that I needed to do whatever I've needed to do so far, because in the basis of that, like, I'm an intuitive healer and life purpose mentor. And in that, that's what I do. And I am a mentor to the mentors. I am a trainer to the teachers. I am like I'm the supervisor to you doing your mentoring. Like, that is who I am. I'm a teacher to the teachers. And I've always been that way, definitely. And now it's like, I've created what I've created online to be able to support that. So in this huge recalibration, there's a part of me that's like woken up to like, oh, I'm just talking about my trauma all the time. And I'm like, well, not really, because when we look at the basis of, I mean, like, that's a reality. I've been talking about it, right? But when we look at the basis of what reality is based on, 99% of the population is in trauma because they are in unconsciousness. Reality awareness mission statement is awakening the consciousness of humanity. And so if I'm not talking about the hard stuff, if I'm not bringing light and consciousness to unconsciousness, it's not going to change. And I think that's been a big part of me, like, owning who I am and stepping into my gift and really sort of honoring what it is that I'm here to do. And it is about talking about the things that no one wants to talk about, right? And then it's also like, how do I shift from talking about trauma to talking about joy in an authentic way that shows people that it's possible to move out of trauma and domestic violence into a life that you love. Like, ultimately, that's really what it's about. And I feel like the transition for me, for myself, in this huge recalibration, is that I'm stepping out of the trauma and the pain into the joy and the life of my wildest dreams. This has been one of the biggest recalibrations for me. And me in the past 2 weeks of like, from the, I don't know, whenever I did those live streams recently, and like was really upset, and I did more in-depth vulnerable one in my Transcendence Reality Society membership group. And then I came online publicly and I started doing it as well. Like, just a live stream, and I'm like, talked about more than I thought I would publicly, but I was like, oh, well, this is what I do in a way. And then coming into, like this sense of like stepping out of the trauma and into the joy, this is what I'm really like, it's like the reason we do healing work is to step out of that. Like, that's the fucking reason we heal, right? We heal in whatever way, shape or form so we can have a better life. Like, that's the reality about it. You have to be ready to choose that. You have to be ready to step into that. You have to be ready to go, enough is enough, and literally enough is enough to then live that life. And I feel like I've sort of recalibrated into that, where like trauma happens, life happens, shit happens, and you can also still be in joy and choose your wildest dreams over that. That's the biggest point. And it's not easy to go from trauma and pain to joy and love and light, because the reality is that it's, number one, all on the same spectrum. Sadness is happiness. It's all on the same spectrum of emotions, right? At one end is the other end, right? And this is a scale from dark to light. Like my number plate is literally like dark, light, light, dark, dark, light. It's like, hang on a sec. Dark, light. And people talk to me about it all the time. They're like, oh, I love your number plate, etc. And then it's like this is the scale. Like I literally got a number plate about it, so much I am about it. I'm a priestess, right? A priestess is literally someone who holds the whole scale. And I feel like there's a certain point in time where we move up the scale and we sit here, because we can always be up here and then we come back. Or we be up here and we come back. And it's like we be up here and we come back. But then we come into this point where we're here. And it's all here. But we're choosing to be here rather than here. And it becomes a choice and we get to live that. It's not easy. Because, for our whole life, we've lived here. And this is where the training, the discipline, and putting into practice all the things. And that can take time in itself, right? All right, let me just check these comments. Hi, Chris. Okay, I'm just checking these comments here. Jenny says, my family thinks I'm going crazy. I've been losing my mind since the estrangement of my daughter in December 2020. I'm working on finding myself and reconnect the spirit and heal my broken pieces. Yeah. It's so interesting you use that terminology, losing your mind, losing my mind. That's so interesting because after, my breakdown the other week, I went and saw my counselor, mentor, my in-person one. I haven't seen her for a while. I used to see her like every fucking week for like 3 years straight. So funny, like my family were worried about me. They're like, I think you should like go see a counselor or something. I'm like, I see one every fucking week. And they're like, oh. So funny when people say that to me, like even when I'm like got tears coming out when the like therapist is working on my hand or something and they're like, oh, you need to see someone. I'm like, I see someone like weekly. And they're like, I'm like, it's called grief. It's fucking normal. Anyway, so a little side note, but I've been losing my mind. That's how I've been feeling out here. And it's like the biggest words like that shift fucking everything with my mentor is, I've said to her, I'm like, I feel like I've been losing my mind and I'm like crying and like just getting it all out. And she's just like, and it's just an energy. And it's like, oh, and it just shifts everything. Whatever feeling it is, it's just an energy. Yeah, and it's just an energy. And all of a sudden your brain goes, oh, it's just an energy. And all of a sudden, like, we process it. Fucking complex, beautiful brain and mind that we are. These beautiful creatures that we are, right? I'm losing my mind. And I feel like there's a deeper aspect to that. I saw something pop up on my feed the other day. I didn't really look too much into it, but it was something about, hello, baby. Hang on. Oh, what are you doing? Stars! What's going on? What you freaking out about? It was something about 2020. Not 2020. Something about 2012, December 2012. Now, a lot of people would remember December 2012 because the Mayan calendar said that was the end of the world. Now, something amazing that really I really resonated with many, many years ago, Doreen Virtue, even though she's changed to Christianity now, like, I'm not really worried about it, like, in a sense, but before she changed to Christianity, she would talk about it and she would say, she got told by angels or guides or whatever. So it's not the end of the world, but the end of the current consciousness of the world. Now, it's interesting when we look at the solstice energies and this sort of squeezing and really ultimately, I feel like this squeezing energy or the energies have been really hard for like, I don't know, the past 6 months or more. I don't think it's just like been something in the last week or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, sure, the last 2 weeks I feel have been really intense, and even over the eclipses in like March, April, May, it's been intense for a little while. Like, maybe that's just me, but I think it's been intense for a little while for a lot of people, right? And so sorry, I'm just putting my jacket on because it's cold. losing my mind. Like if we look at the squeezing energy, if we look at the planets that are lining up, and also I feel like, you know how I talk about, I'm sure I've talked about it with you guys, maybe it was with the eclipses and stuff, where it feels like, for example, trying to put a label on the energy, right? If there was 2 solar systems or 2 planets or something crossing over in the world, like in the sky out there, and 2 solar systems or 2 dimensions even were like coming in, and then they'd like sort of merge with each other, and then they'd either merge into one, or they'd sort of bump into each other and then continue on their journey through the cosmos or whatever's happening out there, right? When we look at that sort of feeling, when we're feeling the energies, and it's like, and it's either merges into one and then we expand into this whole nother era of feeling of whatever, or it like comes in and then it just crosses over and then continues on its solar system cosmic journey, whatever, that energy, you could imagine it's like, I'm losing my mind, like, because it's merging with a whole nother dimension of energy. And it's just like, and your world is changing and everything's shifted. Like, do you know what I mean? And so it's interesting that you said that, because, so when somebody said, I saw it, you know, the other day, like I said, the 2012 thing, I was like, oh yeah. And I can't remember what was on the actual post, but it was something like, it was something like, that's when, like, the end of the world started or whatever. But again, it was more the end of the consciousness. This didn't say that in the post. Anyway, they were referring to something that's happening now is like, it started back then. And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. And if we look at, oh yeah, well, that was what, 10 years ago? What are we now? 2022, 2012. Oh, well, that was 10 years ago. And 10 years is the make or break point. And sometimes we have to lose our mind to truly find it. Yeah. Like, I feel like when we're recalibrating and we're shedding the skin of our consciousness and we're shedding the snake and we're shedding, I feel like a part of us is dying, because it literally is. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the person I was 10 years ago. I'm not the person I was 20 years ago. Like, of course, a part of me has died. Like, it's still in there and it's still a part of me, but that old, and especially this is so important to remember, when we have like gone through a massive life change and we haven't had the correct support to grieve it or go through it properly, so like a relationship breakup, loss of career or job, moving house, etc., or if we're doing a lot of personal development work, like, we have to remember that we're going to change into a new person, and that old part of us is going to die. Like, it literally is dying, right? It's, I like to say, more of an integration, but it feels like death. And a lot of people that don't understand the energies, and a lot of people that don't understand this concept, and a lot of people that don't know how to feel, and a lot of people that don't know how to feel comfortable in feeling, and don't know how to support themselves, and don't know how to care for themselves, a lot of these people go and commit suicide because it's just a fucking energy and they don't know how to deal with it and they don't understand it. And this is where I'm passionate about teaching people that this level of consciousness and feeling and going through the growth and the cycles is like normal, like day and night and summer and winter and autumn and spring. Like, these things are so important to understand so people don't go and fucking suicide. Like, when you understand that it's just an energy and you can sit with that death feeling because a part of you is like losing your fucking mind, like is dying because it's reintegrating into your higher self. Your higher self is embodying in your body and becoming more of who you are. And for those people who have like been through like a relationship breakup or career or job loss or something like massive, right? Or they've lost something in their life. Like, if they don't understand how to deal with that, that then sinks into depression and all the other addictions come up, right? So that really needs to come out. Let me see what comes. Let me just connect back with these comments here. Oh yeah, so losing your mind. I feel like it's an energy right now, because I feel like there's, as a consciousness, we are awakening in the planet, like 100%. Like, there's more people awake now than there was. There's so many messages. There's so many more people awake now in the last 5 years than there was in the last 10 years. Like, I don't know if that's a scientific fact, but I'm like, that's an energetic fact that I can feel in the world, like 100%, right? And if we look at that expansion and that awakening, that's happening pretty quickly. It's not like this anymore. It's like, it's going that way. It's the full expansion, right? So, okay, Marina says you've created an amazing space for all of us to be part of. Thank you. Thank you, Marina, for being here. Thank you. Jenny, Tracy, thank you for that. Kelly says, wow, exactly where I'm at. Learning to go from my trauma to joy. Yes, awesome. It's tough. It's a hard road for sure. Yeah, I feel like it's harder. I want to say it's harder when we don't have the right support around us. It's harder when we don't understand it. You know, I mean, it's only hard because it's shifting out of our comfort zone and it's shifting out of what we've always been. That's all. Yeah. It's just an energy. doesn't what's the word, like, your feelings are important and valid, but it's just an energy. What you're feeling is valid, but it's also just an energy. What do they say? You're not your feelings. You're not your trauma, but it's so real when we're in it. It's important to validate, but what's most important is knowing how to sit with it, to shift it, not disassociate from it, not cover it up, not meditate it away, not get your angels to clear it, not blah, 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 blah. Like, the correct correct support and training enables you to shift it. Yeah. Jenny says, I feel invisible. I'm becoming more conscious than I ever have. Exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah. Jenna says, no, but it's been intense for a while. Yeah, it has, right? It has. Temple said, it's an amazing change of perspective. When you know that your symptoms are due to ascension and solar flashes, it is the end of the elite's world. Yes, this is true, right? This is true. And the beginning of spirit consciousness. Yes. And also, when we look at how the dark is there to serve the light, like, really, who's waking up who here? Like, when we really look at the truth of it, who's waking up who? Like, the elites and all that, like, it's kind of like, if they weren't doing the shit they're doing, people wouldn't be waking up. Some people might argue, like, if they weren't doing what they're doing, we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. I'm like, how deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Try me. Okay. Carissa says, I know exactly what you mean. I started calling it walkthroughs. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Exactly that. Yeah. Temple says, and the powers that be have also changed our calendar, so it's hard to pin down exact dates. Yeah. Time is irrelevant, right? Time is irrelevant, but in the 3D world, we kind of use it for, I want to say, creating. In a way, we do. We use it for creating. Yeah, in a way. In a sense of, like, you know, pulling manifestations into form, and then also, you know, turning up to a meeting on time or what have you. Temple says, oh yeah. So Jenny says, that's me at the moment, I think. No, you said AML. I'm not sure what AML is. What's AML? I'm like trying to figure it out. That's me at the moment. No, that's ACM. Okay, that's me. 2 times and moved to a different state, lost my friends and then family and any support. Yeah, that's a big one. And that's the thing. When I moved out here, I'm like, all my resources were taken away. But I've had a few sessions with some mentors this week, which has just been like helpful to recalibrate, because I know that getting all my furniture was such a huge recalibration for me. And it's like, this is where everything's landed, and this is where everything's shifted. And it's, there's so much to that I can't really put into words. But I'm like, now I feel like I'm landed. I feel like I'm here. I feel like I'm new. I feel like I'm new. I feel like I'm me. I feel like it's a big one. It's hard to describe. Temple says, it's painful, exhausting, nauseating, and I'm grateful for all of it. Yeah. Sometimes when we're in it, we're not grateful for it. Well, I'm not. When I'm in it, I'm like, fuck this shit. And then I'm like, I really needed to go through that. But in the moment, in the moment, I'm not. No way. You want to get out of my fucking way in the moment. I am lost without any kind of support system. Yes, let me talk about this. So this situation for me reminds me when I moved to Brisbane years ago. Like, I used to go to the beach all the time, blah, blah, blah. And then I moved to Brisbane and I'm like, there was no fucking beach. And it's a very similar feeling, but out here it's even more. And I've known that it's, you know, from my Brisbane experience many years ago, I know that this experience has been teaching me how to resource myself without my resources, i.e. beach, gym, coffee shop around the corner, food court shop around the corner. Like, do you know what I mean? I know it's teaching me to resource myself in a different way. Like 100% I've known that. Does it make it any easier? Fuck no. Fuck no. Right? Now, since I've got my furniture, I feel more supported. And I know that's like a no-brainer. It's like, oh, well, I can sit on the couch and it holds me now. Like, that's a no-brainer. I'm more supported. Like, physically, I can sit on the couch. Like, it's a big deal. And it might not seem like a big deal for a lot of people, but I'm like, I've lived without a couch nearly 10 years. I'm like, it's a big deal to go from an empty house where we've only had our dining table, our kitchen, our bed, and our office, to now having a home full of furniture like a normal home should. You know, like, it's been a really massive internal shift for me, which is so like appropriate ultimately, because a home is like where your soul is, right? And, you know, and it did sort of, you know, come through, like I had to make my life beautiful. Like, you know, being out here, all my resources taken away. And please know when I say resources taken away, what I mean is like, I moved away from the beach, I moved away from the gym, I don't have family or anything. So these things are really like important. Even going to the coffee shop and getting a coffee and like talking to the person, like, you know, there's no one out here to communicate with. There's no human interaction except for my daughter. And it's, you know, it was a big deal, right? So anyway, the point is that, you know, like, the home, you know, it was like I was tired. I got to a point where I was tired of looking at an empty house and the emptiness that reflected inside of me, right? Like, it's a no-brainer. Now we've got a house full of furniture. I'm like, oh, I feel full, nourished, held. Like, it's like something internally has shifted, like, duh, of course, right? So, plus the other thing is, like, I've always, if you've watched me for a long time and known my journey, if you followed me online, etc., like, I'd always talk about super yachts, private jets, helicopters, blah, 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 that lifestyle, right? And it might be like a, you know, like, ultimately, I want to say the luxury lifestyle, but it was kind of, you know, in this process of like, who am I without my trauma? And all these questions started to come up over the last 2 years since I've been here. And it's also where it's like, you know, I've chased luxury this whole time. And I was like, well, what does luxury actually mean to them? Luxury is actually a feeling of being held, being cared for, being taken care of, being like, being supported, being loved, like that, you know, that's luxury to me. Like, if you saw my stories, I've been putting little bits on my stories of my house, and I'm like, wow, I've got a table and a chairs. Like, I had a table and chairs before, but didn't like sitting at it. And, you know, environment matters. Environment is fucking everything. Environment matters. One of the biggest things about wealth creation and feeling good is having your needs met and environment. Now, I've always, like, I've learned and known this for a long time, and I'm like, oh yeah, who you hang around, like, you know, are you hanging around toxic, negative people? Are you, you know, who you listening to, like, environment, you know, like, are you, you know, hanging around like I don't know, whatever, like, environment matters. Like, are you going to, like, no offense to going to a pub, but, you know, like, that environment is a pretty low vibration to, say, going to a yoga class. Like, environment, whether there's no good, bad, right or wrong, but I'm just giving you an example of the difference of vibrations, right? And a different environment, you know, thing, right? Like, you know, drug, pub, alcohol, drunk, to like yoga, meditation, yogi class. Like, let's just give an example of environment that I'm talking about here, right? And so when I'm looking at, you know, like, environment matters, like, when I started to, like, sort of wake up, and it was after the dog attack, really, because, you know, I was really traumatized sitting in my office, and it took me a little while to realize why I didn't want to go in my office. And I was like, oh, well, I'm looking out the window where it happened, you know, and so I was like, right, change the office around, and then I eventually just had to move out of that office, right? I had to move room in my house. I think I might talk about that, but the point is like, I then bought all new office furniture because I was like, I need to make it beautiful. Like I can't just, and it was part of like trying to heal the PTSD from it, but also like I just had to make it beautiful, like as well. Like I guess it was both, but it was like I needed to make it beautiful. And once I did my office, it was like sort of like a snowball. It was like, right, now I need to make my whole home beautiful, you know? And if you've seen it, I've got beautiful like flowers everywhere. And well, there's two flower vases, one in my office and one at the beautiful front door entrance. And, you know, like looking at, you know, like, because environment matters, and it's so funny, right? It's so funny and ironic because ear chakra consciousness is what we did at the end of last year. And now we're in throat chakra consciousness. So yes, I'm doing the 9-week journey publicly, but in TRS, so in Transcendence Reality Society, my membership, we're going through each of the chakra courses. Like I'm creating them and you guys get the first hand in there, right? First access, I should say. Plus so much more, so much more in there. But anyway, so you get first access to all of the trainings that I'm doing for the depth of the chakras. Now, at the same time, like I live this shit as I teach it. And I'm like, well, the whole house recalibration, when I really look at it as a no-brainer, because ear chakras is all about environment. Ear chakras is also, there's so much about ear chakras, but in short, the main points for this part of what I'm sharing is the ear chakras are also what we absorb on a subconscious level all the time. You know how they say like with our eyes, and we I don't know what the figures are, but let's say like we only take in 10%, like we only see 10% of what is actually there because our brain or whatever filters out what we actually can see, because it would be too overwhelming and too overstimulating. Like I don't know what the figures are, I'm just making that up, but you know the point that I'm saying, right? And at the ear chakra consciousness, it's like, what are you absorbing in your subconscious all the time? Like for example, right, if you Google something, all these ads will come up. If you go to a particular website, like there's all these ads on the side and they're flashing all the things. You don't really see them unless you start looking to the side, and then you see all the ads. You know, next time you go on Google, you're gonna see all these ads. You're gonna be like, oh, this is what Hannah was talking about. You never saw them before, but your subconscious did. And you want to talk about inception, and you want to talk of the marketing and the way the whole world was created about like feeding your subconscious and you don't even realize it. That is a whole nother depth of story in itself, but this is important, right? So I had to make my environment beautiful. And now I'm really conscious of what I'm absorbing and seeing, like, and even in my home, like it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I realized yesterday, I'm like, I'm still absorbing it. I'm still like, I'm like, oh, like even when I was cooking last night, I've got a new fridge, and we used to have the old fridge with the freezer on top. And like, I was cooking and I went to the fridge and I opened the freezer and I'm like, hang on, what am I looking for again? And I was like, oh, this is the freezer, because usually the veggies are down the bottom, because in the old fridge, like the freezer was at the top, so the freezer, like the veggie bit was down the bottom. And I was just like, I'm still absorbing my new surroundings right now. And in that, everything is changing. Everything is changing. It's been so huge. All right, let me check these comments, and then I'm just gonna, oh yeah, the support system. That's what I was talking about, that. Because you said, Jenny, I agree, I'm so lost without any kind of support system. And so I've needed to, and what's happening, and like I said, I knew this. I knew that being out here was similar to my Brisbane experience many years ago, where all my resources were taken away, and I'm being taught on a soul level to resource myself and support myself and love myself and care for myself in a different way. It's been extremely hard. Like I've been here for nearly 2 years and I'm only just understanding that, because for ages I'm like, I need to go for a walk on the beach. I'm like, it's 45 minutes to drive to the beach. I'm like, Baba, like you've seen me go in this cycle over and over and over again, because I'm needing to like relearn how to take care of myself without the beach, for example, right? And then the other part, I'll just share this as well, because this is what's really dropped into, is that like, don't know how to describe it, but in a way to try and describe it, going to the beach, going to the gym, etc., are surface level ways of taking care of myself. whilst they're like super important and nourishing, and I'm not saying don't go to the beach and don't go to the gym, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that for all these years, that's been my coping mechanism. That's been a surface level way of supporting myself, of taking care of myself. And now I'm taking care of myself by building a home, by actually having furniture, like a real and normal person. Like, what is that? But, you know, like actually having furniture and a proper home. And the other thing that's my like little Virgo self has like been coming alive with the past few days, now that everything's set up and like functioning, is that I've designed all my furniture and placed furniture in the house because my practical Virgo self fucking loves practicality. I'm like, if it doesn't have a practical function, I'm not fucking interested. Why? Because what's the point otherwise, right? Like, even my beautiful, like, you know, walk in the entrance, beautiful vase of flowers, the cupboard is there because when we get home we put our bags on it because there was nothing to put our fucking bags or keys on for a minute, like when we walk in the door with everything, right? Practicality. And like, I am, you know, and I function best when things function. Like, and again, it's like a no-brainer. It's like basic needs being met. And it's interesting, I've been like craving the luxury and the wealth, and I'm like, because I just need practicality and being able to take care of myself, because that creates the foundation and the functionality of like a healthy human, for fuck's sake. Like, you know what I mean? And when we look at society and how many people don't have that, it's like, so in a long story short, it's like the support system is me learning to support myself in different ways that are not just surface level. Like, going to the beach is awesome. Going to the gym is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't stop doing that if you're doing that. But I've been personally taught, like, this is what my soul's growth has been going through lately, and it's been fucking massive, of like these deeper levels of nourishment, these deeper levels of support. And when we really look at that soul chakra consciousness, interesting, that's sacral chakra consciousness, because your soul is embodied in your womb, in your sacral chakra. Men have a womb as well, it's the sacral chakra, and that's where our soul is like housed. I should say that's where our soul is nourished at our core. And nothing, like, you know, when I say the gym and the beach was surface level support for me, it was it's not sustainable, right? Now, I'm not saying like the furniture is sustainable, because nothing is fully, what's the word? Like, everything is transient in this world. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing is solid except for the soul. But I feel like our soul goes through different periods of growth and learning experiences to be nourished and therefore housed in the body in different ways over different aspects of our lifetime. Yeah? So anyway, just thought I'd share that. Just going to check these comments here. Sophia says, I feel that way. It's so much harder without a support system. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Destiny says, who's waking up who? Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Temple said, took me years to find appreciation for Bill Gates, but I got there. Exactly, right? This is like the dark's working for the light. Yeah. Tracy says, I feel the light is really shining through at this time. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I feel like something shifted. I feel like the trajectory of what we were heading into, I feel has shifted. I feel like there's a lot of damage that's already been done. I really do. But I do feel like there has been some sort of trajectory that has shifted in the direction of where humanity was going compared to where it's going now, because there has been a mass awakening, and that in itself has shifted something. I really do feel and believe that in a big way. Yeah. Kelly says, I'm coming into my own. Yes, exactly. Learning who I really am. Yes. Who the fuck am I without my trauma? Oh, this is who I am. Do you know, like on my screensaver on my computer, like when it comes up, you know how it like goes to sleep, but it's a screensaver. It's like, remember who the fuck you are. And I'm like, yeah, it's been there for a little while now. Kelly says, you're validating everything I'm doing right. Yes, you are. Awesome mentors. Yes. Leanne says, time seems to be going slower now too. Yeah, it has slowed down a bit. I do feel that compared to like, I don't know, maybe start of the year or something. I feel like it's still flying. I'm like, oh, we're in July, but I feel like there has been a kind of, it's like someone turned down the dial or something. I do feel that. Jenny says blood cancer, leukemia. Okay, that's the AML. Yeah, that's really huge. Well, I hope you've got a mentor or something that you're working with, because I'd be lost without my mentors. Might not have family or friends around, but I've definitely got mentors, and I wouldn't be where I am today without them. I love my chair. I love my chair too. Being disconnected from people is a big deal. Yeah. So the thread that I've really been clearing / working on, apart from the losing my mind bit, energy, let's say, the threads that have been clearing is the isolation, definitely, for sure. Yeah. Temple says you filled your house with you and made it a home. Yeah, definitely have. Definitely have. Kelly says, lost my home to a fire 4 years ago, grieving that still. Yes, it's interesting, the things that are taken away. I wonder if I've put it in here. I was watching listening to an Abraham Hicks thing the other day, and something I wrote down, it's not the exact words from it, but it was the gist of it. It was like, I've lost nothing and gained everything. You've got to be happy with the manifested version before it comes in. It's the vibrational presence of it. It's like, you know, and it's coming into alignment with that. It was talking about, I don't know, alignment and manifestation or something like that. It's like, I've lost nothing and gained everything. And I had to listen to it a couple of times over, because, like, you know, like when we've lost something like what you've gone through, like, it's, you know, and I want to say the grief, right? So number one, like, that for me personally, I think would be like losing a loved one. I know it might be very different, but it's very similar in what you've lost in that. And I want to also say to you, like, are you working with a mentor to help with that grief? Because that's important, you know, to really let ourselves grieve that fully. Like, if we lose anything, I want to say the faster and the more permission we give ourselves to drop into the grief as soon as it happens, the faster we will shift it. And it's not that we shift it, it's always there, and the grief is always there, but it gets more manageable in a way. So, you know, and it's like, I've lost nothing and gained everything. That sort of, like I said, I listened to it a few times, and it's like, you know, I've lost nothing and I've gained everything. That's when we can really shift. And I think we can only really do that once we have grieved a lot. You know, we might go, oh yeah, cool, I'm at that place. Then we drop back into the grief. You know, we can flick back and forth. It's a bit like what I was saying before around the scale, and then like shifting back into it and stuff. You know, it's like we go from here to here. We're in the joy, but then we're in the trauma. We're in the joy, but then we're in the trauma. And then it sort of gets shorter and shorter. And then we're sort of just here, and then we can be with it all without the sting in a way, even though, you know, life still happens, of course. Yeah. Jenny says, being loved, nurtured, your needs met, vital energy you need to survive, just like food and water. Exactly, right? Exactly. And it's so interesting. This seems like not relevant, but it is relevant. I also saw something on Instagram from whatever account, and it was like, I can't remember exactly the meme thing, but it was like, you know, this is what they think fighting for freedom is. And it was all like, you know, rallies and being at fights and the armies and stuff like that. And then like you swipe across, and the next thing is like this like community growing, like a community veggie garden. And they're like, what actually fighting for your freedom means, like, you know, in a sense of like, it's actually not about the fight. It's actually about just creating a whole new world. Yeah. And this is where I think stepping it out of the trauma and into the joy is that we do create a whole new world. And this is where like a part of us is dying when we go through these feelings and we feel this way, because literally a part of us is freaking dying. Like, it is, you know what I mean? Like, we're not that person who is in the trauma anymore when it was really hard, you know, and then stepping into this is hard in itself, but it's a different hard. And then the more we stay here, the easier it gets, because that's a training as well. Yeah. Sophia says, I refurnished my home this past year and it seriously changed the energy in my home. Oh, it does. Environment matters. It's a thing. Yeah. And I'm still working on the rest of the home, redoing room by room. I feel so, what you're saying, yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And when you really look at it, of what it is inside of you and what that's doing inside, like your home, inside of your home is inside of your body, like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So Temple says, I lost everything because of drug addiction. Yes, huge, right? So massive. Yeah, but those were just things. Even when it's bad, there's a gift in it because I am in it. Yeah, and that's the thing, like where I was saying about what Abraham had said, I lost nothing. I've lost nothing and gained everything, because we've gained a new, like we've gained soul growth, perception, but it's not even about that. It's more of a feeling of where we're going now. And again, that, you know, I feel that comes once we've grieved a certain part and moved through a certain part, you know. It's not easy to do in the start at all. At all. Tracy says, I'm addicted to crystals and watching lives all the time. We've all got our addictions. It's okay. Yeah, I'm fighting a substance too. Recently got on medication. Yeah. So any addictions is really like what's going on underneath. And you have to remember that any addiction isn't about the addiction. It's about what's going on underneath. And then it's also that some addictions are coping mechanisms to get to the next stage. Like, for example, when I got off recreational drugs in 2005, heavy recreational drugs, like spirituality became my drug. And, you know, learning to balance that because of now what I just do, like that was even a big deal. But it's like, you know, and then when I also stopped smoking cigarettes, bread became my addiction and food became my addiction. And so it was just, one person could say, well, you're just covering up an addiction with another addiction. And I'm like, well, technically I am. I moved from this addiction to this addiction. Did I really deal with what was underneath? Not really. But it was a more supportive addiction, and it got me further along the path to dealing with what the core was, you know? So it's not bad. I don't believe that any addiction is bad. Of course, we need help with it, but it's not the addiction that is the issue. It's what's underneath the addiction is the issue. When we deal with what's underneath it, then the addiction naturally releases. Yeah? Yeah. Solitude can reconnect the spirit. It can be confronting to be in the isolation that it brings, though. And when we look at isolation and solitude, one could say that they're on the same thread. And when we're thrust into isolation, it can be a little bit different to solitude, but it takes a reconnecting back to the spirit to find the solitude in that. So it's like that scale, yeah? Oh, yes, Leah. The last couple of days I've been like, yep, nah, not putting up with your shit anymore. I'm not justifying your bullshit attitude. Learn to be civil, pack your shit and go. So I feel like this solstice has also brought a closing of a long-term cycle. I feel like December will be a really, I don't know if challenging month will be the right thing, but if we look at December 2012 and December 2022, isn't that 10 years? Or is my maths not right? Like, is that 10 years? Because I feel like we're in for a bit of a ride for this next 6 months, right? We're closing a big cycle. We're closing a big portal or expanding into a new one, or something's merging, like something's changing. Everyone can feel that. So this solstice has also brought lines in the sand, strong boundaries, not tolerating your shit anymore, long-term relationships ending. You know, if I look at me living without furniture for 10 years because I've been putting my finances into other ventures, you know, like those sorts of things, it's like long-term things have been resolved, shifting, growing, changing, falling away, like massive life changes for a lot of people on the planet right now, but really strong boundaries coming into place with that. Now, the other big part of that is that if you have been following me for a while, you would see me change what I do in my business a lot. One of the biggest things that shifted since I've got my furniture is I was it's like, oh, I feel like I can do my purpose work now. It sounds ridiculous because I've always been on purpose and I've always done what I've done. But like I said in the start, like I came online to do a certain task, to create certain creative projects, right? And I created Trust Intuition. I've been doing clients. Now I really believe that I needed to do all of that. But now I have my furniture. I'm just like, cool, now I can just do my purpose work. And, you know, like that's finishing Rapid Ascension Awakening, my books, etc. And alongside that is changing how I work with people. And like I said, if you've seen me, the last few years, even the last 18 months, I have changed things all the time. I probably will still change things all the time. But what has shifted is I've solidified into what I'm really here to do. Again, that might seem like, well, Hannah, you've always done that. Like, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but this is like different. This is a different feeling. It's like, now I'm home. Now I'm home. Now I'm like, oh, this is what I'm doing. So my Goal Reacher program that's open now, you won't be able to work with me like that ever. It was going to be open till the end of the week. It's now open for another less than 48 hours. So I'm actually closing the doors to the Goal Reacher program on Tuesday night. The Goal Reacher program is $8,000, or it's nearly $9,000 to work with me for 3 months. From Wednesday, the only ways that you'll be able to work with me is in a 1-month program, a 6-month program, or a 12-month program. In January 2020, something shifted in me. I was doing one of my mentors course and it just clicked into place. I was like, it's $250K to work with me for a year. It was so clear. And I was like, that's what it is. And that was in January, so 2021, sorry. Yeah. And then like from January 2021, when I had that internal shift and I was like, my life got shit from then. Like, it was so like shit. Like, I didn't even announce it then. It was just like this internal like arriving, and then everything just like fell apart. So, you know, when we talk about when we have a shift and it's like this old part of us dies and it feels like we're dying because literally a part of us is dying. When I was doing my mentor's work and like, it just, you know, when you do your mentor's work and things just click into place and you're like, have all these like life-changing realizations and everything shifts, and that's why you have mentors. So that happened, and then everything just got like, for the next sort of 2 to 3 months, it was quite bad, I want to say. Like, it was just hard. And if I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, because that old consciousness was dying. Now, fast forward to like now, June 2022, there's 18 months. Now, I knew in myself that at 18 months, and I kept getting that sense like 18 months, I'm like, oh yeah, 18 months, that's when I'll like whatever. It's been 18 months of me recalibrating to actually fully owning, embodying, and stepping into, if you want to work with me, it's $250K for a year, it's $125K for 6 months, or it's $25K for a month. That is the only ways that you will be able to work with me from Wednesday. Other than that, there's my Trust Intuition course, there's psychic readings, and there's Transcendence Reality Society. That's it. And it's been 18 months of recalibrating into this person. Because if you have done any of this kind of work, even for someone stepping into charging for their psychic readings or spiritual work, is like a big deal for people. And there's a lot of pushback from people who don't charge and all their stuff comes up, right? Money's a big deal. So it's also a huge filter. I see how many people dropped off straight away off the live stream, right? It's an awesome filter. And do you know what also it is? It's a line in the sand. It's a boundary. I'm not here for time wasters. I'm not here for people who just don't want to do the work. I really value my time, and this is where this is really shifting into. And as soon as I got my house furniture, and like, not as soon, because I'm still integrating it, I'm still receiving it. Like last night in the fridge, I'm like, this is like the freezer, Hannah. I'm like, oh, my new fridge, this is up here now. The like crisper's down here now. And it's like, I'm like, oh, well, this is just how it is now. So I'm really, I want to say grateful, because it's been a lot of work to shift into this space. And so the Goal Reacher program is only open for another like less than 48 hours, Tuesday night, and that will be the last time that you can work with me. Well, Jenny says I need to be rich. And it's like, well, that's a reality you create. And if it's in your awareness, it's something that your soul is like, you can have this. Because your soul wouldn't be showing you something like super yachts, private jets, helicopters, blah, blah, blah. And do you know the other thing is that when I've like fully landed here, like it was just last night, because even with the fridge thing, like it was so significant for me. It's like I went to sleep finally feeling at peace. I went to sleep finally feeling like I've landed here or something. And like all this stuff was coming to me last night about like riding through horses, like with horses, like through the properties and stuff. And I'm like I was just in it. I was just in the vision, right? It's like falling asleep and I was just there. And what dropped in, as I've said for years, I'm like, before I was out here, I'm like, I just need property. I have my like, you know, it's not a ranch in Australia. I have my retreat property and a helipad so that I can get dropped off in the ocean with my surfboard or my helicopter. And that was coming back through last night. And I was like, oh, that's right. I remember this life. I remember what I chose. I remember what I said that I was going to have and do, and it's always been innately inside me. And I'm like, oh, there it is. When you fully allow yourself to own what you want, that's your heart opening. That's your heart opening. And the thing for me, probably the last 6 months, I've realized, no, maybe longer, maybe the past 12 months, I've realized how closed my heart has been. And me fully owning who I am and coming into alignment with who I am and really honoring what it is that I want, my heart is opening. And there's peace. And I feel like I can finally do my purpose work or something. It's fully strange. So yes. So Leah, when you talk about, you know, I'm not putting up with your shit anymore, I'm like, yeah, this is the line in the sand. Boundaries have been strong, and your price point in your business is also a boundary. And it's, you know, and whether it's a boundary with an ex-partner or a child or a neighbor or a friend or a family member or someone at work, like whatever boundary it is, it feels like there's been a snapping point for a lot of people. It's like, enough of that now. What am I still doing that for? Oh, like everyone's just shifted all of a sudden in a way. Like we've been through this squeezing portal and then all of a sudden we're like, we're here or something. Yeah. So, and that's the thing, right? Feeling stronger. It's like, not doing this shit anymore. Like, and it's literally like we're shifting from here in the pain and trauma to here. I ain't doing that anymore. I'm done with that. This is what I'm doing. This is all my focus is, and this is how it is. You're either here in this vibe or I'm busy. I've got shit to do in the joy. You're either coming with me or you can stay in your trauma, but I'm over here in this life now. Right? Yes. Have no one I can trust, no mentor either. I need to find my tribe. Yes. Well, hopefully you found your tribe here. Angela says, whenever I join your live, not as often as I'd like due to being in the UK, your words are always so poignant and align with my life. Oh, I feel like I'm drawn to join your live. I should be sleeping. My home needs an energy shift after a bad relationship. Oh my God, please change your furniture around or get new furniture. I need to focus on my environment rather than run away from it. Oh, see, that's the biggest thing. And recently, like, you know, it's like, there's been bits of furniture arriving like in the past 6 months. Let's like look at it from January, right? And every time a new piece of furniture is about to arrive, I'm like, right, we're moving house, looking at houses, going and like looking to like move into a new rental, like booking an inspection date, etc. And then I'm like, no, we're not moving. And then the furniture arrives. And now like when I get that feeling, I'm like, okay, what bit of furniture are we getting now? Because this is all it is. Like, it's been real. It's been real. And that's the thing here as well. So when I talk about the beach and the gym being surface support for me, that's my easy go-to to run away from stuff. So out here in the isolation, I've had to face things that the beach would be a quick cover-up or the gym would be a quick cover-up. Like, that's been really important too as well, you know, like it's, yeah, that's been a big one. Yeah. And it's interesting when we start catching that pattern. Yeah, it's a big one. Kelly said, this is incredible. I so needed to hear this. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Makes sense, explained as you just said. Yes, exactly. Yes. I absolutely agree. I needed to hear all of this. I feel the connect with you and those in the chat. The divine universe is so amazing. Yes, yes, yes. So happy and honored to be part of this journey. I'm so glad you're here, Sophia. There's no price tag on your life. I know, right? Exactly that. Exactly that. As soon as I'm developing my superpowers, yeah, and that's what it is. It is training the brain. It is shifting out. It is a choice to be rich. It is a choice to move into that life. It's a choice to move out of the trauma and into the joy. It's all a freaking choice, yeah? All a choice. Yes, Kelly, so that's huge. So when you say I feel money will come in time, I need to heal myself first. And I'm like, no, you can heal yourself and attract money and work on money stuff at the same time, because they're both freaking interconnected. They're so interconnected. So because I want to say they're so interconnected in a sense of like, you don't have to do that one and then that one and there's no order. I'm like, you can do both at the same time. Like they're not separate. Nothing is separate. Yeah. Temple says love and light, but I'm laying in my yard on the stars. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so, you know, the reason as well, you know, like there's a lot of people that then turn around and say, I can't afford your services. And the thing is that we have to be so conscious of what we say. Like the truth is that you can't not afford them. You might be like, well, I don't have 250 grand in my bank. And I'm like, well, I never had, you know, like 30 grand in my bank, you know, US. So it would have been 50 grand Australian in my bank, you know, like when I started this online journey as a single mother on the pension in 2016 to like join with my mentor at the time. Like I didn't have 50 grand in my bank. I had money come in that would cover the first payment. And then I just trusted the rest would turn up somehow, because I chose to step into this reality. I chose to do the work. I chose to make it happen. We can do anything as long as we make it happen. And the other reality about that is our words are so important. It's not that you can't afford it. It's that you're choosing to place your money elsewhere. There's so many people, like I always remember this one time, it's like this person's like, I can't afford to book in for your psychic reading, but then they go to the bottle shop and they go and buy like, you know, a bottle of, you know, bourbon or whatever it was. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, it's not that you can't afford it. It's that you're choosing to place your money in other places right now. That's the truth about it. We don't want to create money problems when there actually isn't any now, do we? Because what we say is what we create. Like, you can afford it. You're just choosing to place my money elsewhere right now, because that is the absolute goddamn truth. Yeah? Better to be in truth and to come into full alignment and move from that empowered place rather than sinking back down the spiral, right? So, you know, and the other part about it is that, you know, I've created my website for a reason, that if you truly went through and did the work, there's so much free content on my website that you can change your life. The reality is that I don't heal you. You heal you, but you have to do the work. You have to put in the time, the effort, all the things. I didn't get here by sitting around and watching Netflix and like thinking that money's going to drop in my lap. No, I fucking worked. As Kim Kardashian so famously said recently, it's like I've got what did she say? It's like I've got advice for women, you know, who want to work, or women who want money, or women entrepreneurs or whatever. She said, get off your fucking ass and work. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a thing. Like, I've put in 18 hours days for 18 months when I first started this like business. Like, it's real. Like, the work is real, but so is the lifestyle. And you're the only one that can change your reality and create it, whether you're health compromised or not. That's the goddamn reality about it. A lot of people don't want to move out of this though. They're not willing to take risks. They're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to face the reality of what their family and friends are going to say. They'd rather stay here. And the reality is that my line in the sand is that I'm not willing to be around those people anymore. I'm not willing to like cater to those people anymore, in a sense of like, I'm probably going to lose a lot of followers for this, but this is where I've come to. I'm like, I've got a mission and I'm not here for time wasters anymore. If you want to complain, if you don't want to do the work, there's other people who will go and listen to you. I've got stuff to do, and I've got a website full of resources that if you put in the goddamn fucking work, you will change. There are ways that you can work with me. You just have to find them. There are ways that you can get into my world. You just have to ask. There are ways that you can change your life with all the freebies on the internet. The reality is that you just don't fucking want to. That's the goddamn truth of it. Angela says, the beach is my escape, but unfortunately we have to leave it, and we have to leave in our home environment. So I'm going to improve mine. Interesting. Either that or buy a beach hut in the Maldives. The Maldives. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I think, you know, so much for me lately has been like, okay, move. And I think after a while, when I was like looking at places, and then I started realizing like, oh, the next piece of furniture's coming. You do this every time, Hannah. And even after a while, I was like, if we move, before all the furniture, I was like, even if we move, I'm still moving to another empty house. Like, I started to realize, I'm like, it's not the fucking house. It's my house. It's inside me. You know, it's like making that the, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, that's where it is in here, you know? So yeah, that's been the big, this is the home. You know, they say the heart is where the home is. Well, my heart has been empty. My home's been empty, but not anymore. And fuck, I'm already feeling better for it. And all these lines in the sand and the recalibration that's now happening in my business as well, and the way that I'm spending my time and energy and who and where is so fucking awesome. Brutally honest. Oh, honestly, I'm lapis lazuli in the liquid crystals, and I meant to say before, so the snake is about the realization of the truth. If there is one word for the third eye, so we're still in third eye chakra week, it's the truth, right? But it's realizing the truth, yeah? And I think that I am brutally honest, and sometimes, and I didn't realize this for quite some time, but I just speak, and even my energy can be really cutthroat at times and strong. And I've learnt that over the years, and like in confronting ways, and I didn't realize. And so now I'm more, not hiding my energy, but I'm more conscious of how potent and strong my energy can be, and my words can be very cutting, but I will always be truthful. You want a dose of reality and a dose of truth, you've come to the right place, because I will always give you the truth, straight up truth. And I think that's what a lot of people are scared of, but a lot more people are hungry for that, and that's only going to increase over the years coming. What else was I going to say about that? Oh yeah, and honesty. So in the 12 divine steps to awakening your life purpose, so I'm the life purpose queen, there's 12 steps to awakening your life purpose. They are like mission statements that you live into. They are steps, they're guidance, and there's 12 of them. The first one is honesty. If you're not honest in your life with who you are, with the environment that you're living in being honest and not telling white lies, like even like, you know, picking that grape out of the like supermarket when you haven't paid for the bunch of grapes and trying it, you know, because, oh, I'm just trying a grape. Like, that's actually stealing. Like, living in truth and not lying or stealing. Honesty and living in true honesty and integrity is the first step in awakening your life purpose. As soon as we tell white lies, as soon as we eat that grape, as soon as we do something that we know is not in alignment, right? It's like a little cloud sits here, a little dark cloud, or a little cloak of darkness. And we start covering ourselves up with these little cloaks of lies that we're telling ourselves and living into. And then everyone wonders why they're lost and they don't know who they are, and they've woken up in their life and they're like, who the fuck am I and what is this happening? You know, it's like all these little white lies that we've told ourselves, and oh, the relationship's fine, when actually it's not. And so you just keep covering yourself with this cloak, and you just don't want to face it, and then you get all these like issues, you know, in your body and you're wondering why you're sick because you're not fucking listening to your intuition, and your intuition's trying to scream at you to wake you up. And you're just not being truthful. Honesty is the number one step in awakening your life purpose. So fucking true, but I ain't giving up. I've come too far to go back, and I'll get there. Awesome. Good. Get out of the comfort zone and do the work and move forward in life. Exactly, right? Exactly. All right. So my Go Reacher program, like I said, guys have heard the inside goss. If you really want to step out of your comfort zone, if you really want to do the work, Go Reacher is open only for another less than 48 hours, well, about 48 hours actually. Tuesday night, Australian Eastern Standard Time, it closes, and that'll be the last time that you can work with me at that level. Send me a message if you want more information about that. That is where we go deep into the work, whatever that is. It's intuitive. We really work this program with what you need. So there's phone calls, there's distance healings, you've got unlimited access to me via Telegram, which is where we can do voice message, text message back and forth every day. And then we've got the, you know, the depth of work that we do on the distance healings in, you know, the phone calls and whatever else comes up in the space. So if you want one-on-one mentoring, this is the Go Reach program, 3 months, the last time that you can use it, because big things have happening, and I'm excited because the ones who get in are the ones that shift alongside this. Yeah, Virgo. There's lots of Virgos. I've actually got lots of Virgo clients actually. Funny about that. You're so welcome. So link is in the title of this live stream. You can check it on my Facebook page or send me a message if you've got any questions. I'll see you in there. Have a beautiful night, morning or evening wherever you are, and I shall see you soon. Love you. Bye.